Do you feel like you're stuck or find yourself attracting the same type of relationships and negative experiences, or just not manifesting what you want in life? Welcome to Heal Your Story. I'm your host, Heidi Dallaire. Here we discuss all things life, love, relationships, the relationship with yourself, and the stories we tell about ourselves and others. I help people get out of their busy heads and get back in touch with their heart space to learn self-love and help heal their story. I'm a heart space and relational coach, a holistic health practitioner, and author at HeidiDallaire.com and LoveWideOpen.com. Let's go hold some heart space together.
This episode is brought to you by the Weather Channel app. Did you know the app can help you forecast more than just the weather? With allergy tracking and flu risk mapping. So you know when to stay inside and load up on podcast. As well as air quality and UV indexing. So you know when to get outside, load up on sunscreen and podcast. Forecast more of what you love with the Weather Channel app.
Hey loves, I today am doing a recast of a much older episode called Easier Said Than Done, which is a sign of self-betrayal and resistance to change. Now, I'm bringing it up because I notice this. Yeah, that former episode was 2 years ago, but I always notice this time of year in particular, and especially when there are world events going on that can be highly overwhelming, is that we are very quick to respond with a default of easier said than done around anything where we feel we need to make a change or shift. Now, why does this happen? Because we are constantly, quite often, under a state of overwhelm, and our nervous system is taxed. And when we have the opportunity to shift and make change in our lives for the better, we tend to default to no. That's easier said than done. And we tend to do this because we take the extreme with easier said than done of making that type of change in my life is going to be such an upheaval that I can't do it. Instead of embracing the fact that you can take baby steps, little steps to shift your life, change the anxiety and emotional triggers, shift the overwhelm, reduce your stress in small amounts. And those small amounts over time add up to being able to handle anything that comes your way. So I have to tell you, the day that I removed easier said than done from my vocabulary, my entire life changed. Because I no longer used it as an excuse. I no longer used it as resistance to change because it wasn't available for me. I just didn't allow myself to use it or any phrase that was anything similar. Instead, what shifted was, how can I make this better for myself? What small or large change can I make to shift my life? No matter how small, it will shift my life in a way and in degrees. So today you're going to hear a recast of an earlier episode because I think it's important. I think it's really important right now, today and always, and moving into the holiday here. And for those of you who have not seen on social, I am offering a very, very special event for holiday. It's an early Black Friday special. It's at a ridiculous price. For $27, you get to hang out with me for an hour and a half, and I give you like my best anxiety buster healing techniques and anxiety reduction and nervous system relaxers that I can in an hour and a half. And there are also some really amazing bonuses that come along with that. I won't be offering this again. This is a one-time deal and at an extremely reduced price. So this is my Black Friday offer. And I'm doing it at this price because I want to help as many people as I can to help them shift their thoughts, their ideas, and get them out of that place where they no longer need to say, easier said than done. And I'd love to help with that. So take a look. There'll be a link in the comments below, or you can check out social. Just join before November 16th. Love to see you there and look forward to helping you. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. Easier said than done. A sign of self-betrayal and resistance to change. Now, I know that this episode may make people feel a little bit prickly. Well, that's where that phrase easier said than done comes in. How many times have you heard someone say easier said than done? How many times have you said it in response to something? These words are often uttered after someone has offered a suggestion or advice. It happens all of the time when I make a post on either my Love Wide Open Facebook page or Heidi Dallaire Facebook page, or even Instagram. Someone finds something that makes them feel resistant, and the response is easier said than done. It's a complete cop-out, an excuse, a get-out-of-jail-free card, a refusal to do the work necessary to make a change. It is said in resistance to the feeling it invokes in us, the feeling that is too hard. Think about the last time you said it. What was it in response to? Most likely something you felt or thought may be too hard to do. Now, here's the funny thing. This phrase is pretty much nonsensical because everything in life is easier said than done. Tying your shoes is easier said than done. Walking the dog is easier said than done. Brushing your teeth is easier said than done. Living life is easier said than done. You see where I'm going with this? What in life isn't easier to say than to do? Anything that requires effort is likely to be resisted. And yet anything that is actually worth doing requires some sort of effort, and the important things often require a ton of effort. Now, there are several signs that show up when someone is exhibiting self-betrayal. Here they are. They are chronically overwhelmed by a feeling of not knowing where to start or feeling stuck in life. They have a constant need for approval and deep fear of criticism. There may be a feeling of resentment or bitterness towards people. There is a lot of indecision. They end up in relationships with people who also betray themselves, and therefore end up betraying that person. They have a desire to be saved, fixed, or rescued. And conversely, they have a desire to be a saver, a fixer, or a rescuer. Now, when we take those signs and relate them to people feeling resistant to change their situations, how does this show up? How are people betraying themselves? I find it most happens when discussing leaving a situation that's not good for you, like a toxic job, a toxic relationship. I see a ton of resistance from people when it is suggested to leave a relationship that isn't working. It almost always brings up the easier said than done phrase. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand full well the effort it takes to make a change, and most of the time we have a fear of the unknown if we attempt to change our situations. So we make a choice not to change our situation, and that is betraying our true inner self and the turmoil we are going through. And sometimes staying a routine of self-betrayal is more comfortable than making a change. The default becomes that accepting change and moving on is easier said than done. It's just too hard. Oftentimes, there's more going on against us physically, emotionally, or mentally when faced with adversity. And that can separate us from the very help and support we need. There is this great quote from Viktor E. Frankl that goes, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Now, when you think about that, if we choose to respond without doing anything, we will remain stuck, and we will not grow, and we will not be free. Granted, there is some change that is forced upon us due to crisis situations. This leaves us vulnerable, and we can feel like hiding instead of getting help. So when you come up against a resistant feeling in your body and respond that something is easier said than done, take a moment to look at why you responded that way. Was it a complete knee-jerk reaction? Easier said than done. If it's that fast, really take a long, hard look at why you responded that way. Is it because you don't want to make the effort, or you just don't know where to start? And you just always now feel too comfortable with the easier said than done response because it takes you out of the doing. And if you find yourself exhibiting any of the 7 signs of self-betrayal that I talked about earlier, you may be in a place that you don't even understand that you are betraying yourself. Giving too much of yourself away with people-pleasing, poor boundaries leading to unhealthy relationships, etc. Change towards your own growth and development can start very, very small. Baby steps. And baby steps is the way to kick that nonsensical phrase, easier said than done, out of your vocabulary. If you're truly committed to working through the hard stuff, reach out to me and set up a strategy session to work with me or someone else you think can help you. Now, get out there and get doing.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Heal Your Story. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find me, my coaching services, my book, or book a Heal Your Story strategy session at HeidiDelaire.com. For other self-development articles, go to LoveWideOpen.com. And you can also follow me at Heidi Delaire or Love Wide Open on all social media channels. Thanks so much. Sending lots of love.